Hello again, welcome to another FFS Livestream. We're here at the Pleasance Dome. It is the day after the midpoint of the festival. I think everybody's sort of had their days off now. We celebrated by going to Edinburgh's highest bog because that's how we roll here. We'll sleep in September. FFS Livestream is a community spirit project to try and bring people from across the industry that are working up here at the Fringe together and coexist and just be happier together and encourage a friendly spirit. We are supported by the Mental Health Foundation. We're very grateful for the Pleasance for allowing us to film here in the Dome. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, ask questions to guests, you can hit us up on social media on this side of the screen today. I'm getting used to this now. This side of the screen, you can find our email address and our Twitter. And if you'd like to donate to this project, then you can go to our GoFundMe page. That would be lovely. We're going to turn straight away and get stuck into our guest today. We have with us Joe Sutherland, comedian. You've had quite an interesting route to comedy. You started off doing a bit of modelling and a bit of acting, and you're now solely a comedian, or are you still doing those things as well?
No, I would call myself a former model turned aspiring model. No, that was an accident after doing university. Got what's called street scouted, where a sort of creepy person comes up to you in the street and says, "Hey, do you fancy some modelling?" And you think, well, this sounds dodgy, so you say yes, please, because you're hungry. But then I made no money off of it, and I hated it.
Right. Okay, so comedy.
Yeah, that's the one.
You turn to that instead.
Mm-hmm.
And Cathy Conneff, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well. You've got a show here, you're in a theatre show here.
I am in a theatre show here.
This is not your first Fringe?
It's the second Fringe, as a performing person.
And have you been up here just to visit and see stuff before?
Yeah, a few times, yes.
And you're year-round acting?
Year-round acting and whatever else pays my bills.
So how have you found it so far? How's the festival been going for you?
It's gone, comparative to last time, really, really quickly. And quite happily, actually, which has been nice, yeah.
Yeah? You've been keeping yourself busy outside of your show time?
Yes, lots of running around, literally, to different shows and meeting everyone who I should meet in London, but I never do. I just wait till I come to Edinburgh and then I meet all my friends. We've
been saying that quite a few times, that it's holiday camp and you kind of bump into people that you see here every year, and then a lot of people, because a lot of people go back to London and they're around the same people, but they don't tend to meet, and then all of a sudden you go 11 months and then, oh hi, we said we'd meet up last year.
Yeah.
Do you find that, Joe?
Yeah, well, I think definitely for comics, because otherwise we are all working in different parts of the country any night of the week. Even if you both live in the same city, you might not see your sort of best friend for 3 months because you can't make it sync up. Whereas here, you're in the same place for 4 whole weeks and you don't have to get a bus to have a coffee.
And this is your second solo show at the Fringe?
Second solo show, yeah.
Both at the Pleasance Courtyard?
No, this year at Underbelly, Bristow Square.
Righty-ho.
Nice new, accessible central location.
Yes. Is that downstairs in the... Yeah, I saw my first show in there yesterday. I totally missed those venues being available. They're new this year,
well,
aren't they?
they're new in that they used to exist many years ago, but they've been refurbed for years and years and years and years. And so now they're just freshly open.
They're very nice. It's like a sort of subway station down there. It's all very nicely...
complete with leaks. There's some leaky cracks in the ceilings. Just what you need from a brand new building.
Some teething problems. I think that's fair to say that that's pretty much every venue in Edinburgh. There's certainly a lot of venues. If you go to the caves, you can get running water down there on a wet day.
It was almost too good to be true, because these venues are soundproofed and air conditioned. Don't tell anyone. And so there just had to be something to ruin it, to bring it back down to Edinburgh Fringe venue level.
But there's 4 venues down there, I think, 3 or 4,
I think so.
And they're fully accessible with lifts and stuff.
There's a lift at street level, so you can come down and it's all nice and open downstairs.
Because it's quite it's quite difficult at the Fringe sometimes because a lot of the venues, obviously they're very, very old buildings, and a lot of them, I suspect, are protected buildings as well.
Yeah.
And just Edinburgh itself is not particularly accessible, so it's great that there's more being done in that regard.
Disgusting statistic is something like 80% of Fringe venues are inaccessible, which is quite mad.
I think accessibility is something that they're definitely working on. I know I had a bit of an investigation into it last year because of we were doing a captioned performance, and there were very few deaf accessible things. And then of course there's disability access, and then of course there's the big thing I think that I've heard about this year is the economic access, and just everything being getting so incredibly expensive, and how you get through that. It's becoming a very expensive month for both performers and for audience members, which I think maybe is why the Free Fringe is getting so much bigger. It seems to expand every year, more and more venues with pay-as-you-want sort of things. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. What's your favourite place in Edinburgh that you've found so far?
My favourite place in Edinburgh, I like the Meadows a lot, and I also I can't go there all the time because it's not necessarily realistically within my budget, but a restaurant called the Cellar Door is very nice and peaceful, and everyone's lovely, and they do a lot of whiskey stroke haggis based dishes too, which I like.
John, where you found?
Thinking along the culinary lines, there is a gorgeous bar restaurant in Leith called The Shore. And it's just so chic yet casual, and it does rock oysters for £1 in the daytime, and a great wine selection. However, again, that's not necessarily the most affordable option every time you need to chill out.
That's the first time anyone's complimented a wine list on this show. I think
it does sound good though.
Yeah.
You've just had a different calibre of guest.
Yes, because Leith has a lot of quite high-end restaurants.
It's
I think
foodie.
Is it Tom Kitchen, I think, has a Michelin-starred restaurant out there. There's quite a lot along that run of, and it's nice to look at as well.
Yeah, gorgeous.
But rock oysters for £1 sounds utterly reasonable.
Yeah, so if you want a little afternoon excursion to head out there, because then you can also take a little stroll along and see the sea, and sit down and have just half a dozen, and a glass of tap water if you so wish.
There we go. It's a good tap water as well, I imagine, from a reservoir, probably near Edinburgh's highest bog, which we did our research trip on yesterday. It's nice, isn't it? Edinburgh, it's so compact. Like, it's nice that there are these pockets outside. So a lot of people have recommended Portobello. You were saying you've been out to Portobello.
I went there on my day off. It was very nice. Went to the beach cafe, had Guinness cake, and it was very good. Also, excellent dogs, if you like watching dogs.
A good selection of dogs.
Yes.
And it's quite an open beach, isn't it? It's like
It is very sandy, and lots of mysterious kind of platforms and ships out in the sea. We're trying to work out what they were.
And a lot of people will go like, oh, I don't have time to get out to Portobello. How long did that take you?
7 minutes on the train.
There you go. It was a leading question, but but that was the answer. Yeah. There's a lot of people forget that it's that close, and Leith is like probably about the same on a bus, depending on the traffic.
Get a cab and it's 10 minutes.
Oh well.
A horse-drawn cab to the best,
all of my tips
to the
are like,
best
just
wine
spend
list in
loads of
town.
money.
Yes. It's good that we're talking about economic accessibility and then bounce straight to the wine list and rock oysters. What about some shops and stuff? We've had a lot of recommendations for like charity shops in Edinburgh being incredibly good value, because there's a lot of very wealthy people in Edinburgh that just ditch all of their really good stuff. It's always worth mentioning that again in like Morningside and.
Yeah, so I think there's one or two around Newtown, the sort of the far end of George Street. In the streets that come off George Street, because you can walk around, and there's obviously, it's a very wealthy area, so there's lots of like antique shops and sort of vintage map shops and things, but in amongst them there's a few just like bric-a-brac where you'll find like, oh, this gilt ornate mirror for £5 or something.
There's a pawn shop over that way that I've been, PAWN, for the avoidance of doubt. There's a pawn shop over there that I've walked past, and they have a pair of bagpipes. Is it a pair of bagpipes, or is it just a set of bagpipes?
not sure.
They have some bagpipes, that are £2,500.
What?
Incredibly ornate bagpipes. So, you know.
Gold bagpipes.
I don't think they're even gold, they're just very ornate. And at the moment, they're my favourite set of bagpipes because they're not actually being used. They're deliciously quiet in the window, which is very nice. How are you guys going for reviews this time around? We've been talking a lot about reviews because it does seem to be like a real pressure point for people.
Well, I mean, reviews, we panicked a little bit because they came quite late, a lot of the reviews to us, so we were they're going to come, don't know, should we just make up some publication, some stars on the leaflet anyway, I don't know. They're coming in dribs and drabs, but the thing is, they're wanting to be able to put the stars on the leaflet, but also not necessarily wanting to read them, just in case as well.
Do you read them?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I obsessively check for them every 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's nice. That's a refreshing honesty because a lot of people come on. Actually, Joe, do you read reviews?
No.
There we go. So it's refreshingly honest because most people claim that they don't look for them at all.
I used to work I used to do social media marketing for a theatre company, and old habits die hard because I'm like, what can I tweet about the show? And that,
So how do you cope if you find that it's not really what you wanted to read?
really appallingly badly. Not this time, thankfully, but last time I had a couple of quite bad reviews from quite big publications on the same day, and I just had complete and utter meltdown. Luckily, I found a few of my friends were really, really good, and they took me for a tea and lots of stroking my hair and going, it's okay, it's just a review, it's personal taste. If we all like the same thing, it'd be boring, which is true.
Was that 2 years ago?
Yes.
I saw that show, they were wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, some people really, really hated it, and they really specifically hated me.
Right.
As well.
And how many people were in that show?
Just me.
Just you?
Just me.
That's tricky.
Yeah, but I did see another friend, and she happened to be walking down the meadows when I was walking up the meadows, crying, just openly crying and bawling. And she went, don't worry, the first review I had when I came to Edinburgh was, not only is this the worst Edinburgh show I've ever seen, it is the worst show I have ever seen. So that gave me some comfort because she's very successful now and she's a very, very good actress, so yeah.
Joe, you going to top that?
No, I don't think I could quite top that. The reason I wanted to avoid them entirely, but then my agent is very sweet and will tweet the nice ones, so I'll get tagged in those, so I'm at least aware of having had 3 nice ones this year, but I still didn't click on them because I think I'll still find something wrong. Even if it's the best, most smartest, astute one, if there's like one observation they've made that I don't agree with, then I'm like, well, then the rest of it's wrong.
Yeah.
If
they're wrong about that, they could be right about. They could be wrong about all the right things they've said.
So I'd just rather not. Obviously, it's a case of the stars are on the poster. That's all I really care about. I could have had like a slew of 2 and 1 stars, and I just wouldn't know about it at the moment, and I'll find out next month, I guess.
Well, we're going to run a package in a minute, so while we're doing that, I'll just do a quick Google, run you through the highlights.
Okay.
Of course I won't. I will say at this point what we always say when we're talking about reviews, the important thing is to remember that they're just one opinion, and there's a lot of other opinions out there, and I definitely think that there's a lot of performers that really concentrate on them and really let them grind at them, and we shouldn't. It's just someone's opinion.
This is and some you're right. Some opinions are horribly off kilter, I suppose. There is one particular comedy website who, if you do read through to find out, well, what does score high? It's like, oh, everybody that they like seems to be of a certain demographic, doing a certain style of thing.
Yeah. But then I think that's it. It's like you have to get lucky with like somebody coming to see your show that is somebody that likes the sort of show that you're doing.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, the main thing that I've found is that this year I've been focusing less on reviews because we've had really lovely audience reviews, and that's kind of why we're here, so, Yeah.
I think I always like Doug Stanhope's take on it, who said his comedy is like bestiality. It's not for everybody. And on that bombshell, we will cut away to a package we have recorded previously with Cathy Queen at the Fringe Participants Centre, who's going to talk us through a few things about advice for performers. Cathy Queen.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you. It's day one and everything's kicking off, so it's exciting.
It is, it's quite a buzz around today.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a slow start in the preview days, but
I know.
It's all in action today.
Yeah, getting there.
So you're the Participant Development Officer.
That's right, yes.
What does that involve?
Well, basically, in the Participant Development Service, we do just that. We develop the kind of professional side of things with artists. So anyone that's coming to the Fringe or has been to the Fringe in the past or planning on bringing a show to the Fringe can come to us for advice on their creative and professional development, be that adapting their show for onward touring, engaging with promoters and industry while they're in town, any advice on fundraising or finding an agent, that kind of thing.
I mean, the reason we're here, the reason we've come here is that there are a huge amount of services available to people.
Yes,
and they maybe don't necessarily find out. And I'm not condemning you for not letting people know. But I think we were just discussing the fact that the Fringe brochure registration fee, I think a lot of people go, it's 350 quid or whatever it is, and that means I get in the brochure. And they miss all of the other stuff that's available.
And I think because we've kept the fee the same for the past 11 years, people kind of think, oh, you know, it's a cheap deal, we're going in the brochure, we're going on the website, and, you know, that's the way of marketing our show centrally. But what people get is access to Fringe Central, where we are now, access to Matt and Kevin, who run the venues and companies team, access to the Participant Development Service and the Media Advice Service, and just pastoral care year round, be it that you're planning on bringing a show to the Fringe in the future, or you've brought a show to the Fringe 5 years ago and you just want to check in, kind of see if there's any advice we can offer. You know, we're here year round. There's 24 of us based just off the high street year round, and we're there to support participants.
Because some companies, and I include my own in this, occasionally have been guilty of, you know, wait till March and then it's like, now it's time to start thinking about the Fringe.
Yeah, and so, you know, with the timeline, people register their show once they've found a venue. So, you know, there's that kind of onward progression. You're constantly working from about November, December to bring a show to the Fringe. You're finding your venue, you're registering your show. Once you've registered your show, you immediately think, okay, now how do I get to Edinburgh? So you're planning your journey, you're budgeting, and you're marketing, and people focus so much on marketing and getting audiences into their show, they often forget about the development and the onward journey beyond the Fringe, you know, what next afterwards.
What percentage of companies do you think take full advantage of that? Do you find it hard to
it is hard to gauge because engaging with the Participant Development Service isn't just coming to us for one-to-one advice. It's being in Fringe Central. We have the Fringe Central Events Programme, which is a programme of over 125 events by 65 event partners that are coming to Edinburgh with workshops and seminars and one-to-one advice sessions. And so they are development events aimed at the skills of participants, be that sponsoring or gaining sponsorship from companies, engaging with promoters. There's networking events, there's mental health support events. So it's impossible to quantify the amount of people that engage with our service. We do quantify the amount of people that come to us for one-to-one advice, but so many people engage with the Fringe Central programme as well that actually it could be a huge amount. And you know, it's great to see that it's really, really increasing in the past year or two.
All of these events with these experts, what'll that cost me?
Absolutely nothing. It's completely part of your registration fee, which, you know, it's access to Fringe Central, which is just a chill out zone, and you've got your admin facilities, and we're all based here for the kind of one-to-one support, but all of the events are completely included in that.
Yeah, and you also have very practical things in Fringe Central as well.
We do indeed,
so you need the internet?
Yeah, so we have free Wi-Fi. We also have computer terminal access. You can get a login to that for £2, which lasts you the whole month. And you can come here to use the printing facilities. We have kind of
staplers.
This is it, exactly. We have guillotines that you can add flashes and reviews to your flyers if you've gotten a review, or if you want to add some kind of papering comps to things, you can use a stapler.
In the past, I've wasted so much time worrying about like where I can find glue and where I can find anything. and I never realised that
Just come here,
it
use
is
ours.
all here.
Yeah, and it's kind of that thing that a lot of people don't realise about the service until they pop into Fringe Central because they desperately need a stapler. And when they're here, they pick up a Fringe Central programme or they get chatting to one of our really great Fringe Central assistants and they realise, that there's so much here. It's a great place to come and hang out and meet friends and grab a coffee. But it's also, if you're having just a 5-minute stress and you just need somebody to chat to, we're all here and we're kind of calm and mostly collected and here to chat things through like that. So it's a really good place to come.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, the reason that we set this thing up, this FFS live stream, is to try and kind of get people to do that, to talk to other people.
Yeah.
And no one is alone here.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because so many people are coming here with solo shows and they're self-producing and they've found their own venue and they've registered their own show and they've done all of the marketing and they're looking to engage with touring operators and programmers themselves, that they think it's all them and all of that work is on them. And yes, it is a lot of work and it is a lot of admin, but share it out. There's so many people in the same boat. You can cross-promote shows, you can help people distribute their flyers, and everyone is so supportive, and it's really great to see that kind of family building in venues and in Fringe Central and just having people support each other. It's a really, really great place.
Yeah, I've been very lucky because I feel like I've got that, but I did it organically and I didn't necessarily realise I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it is easy because all of this is here.
It is, and it's kind of one of those things that it happens organically with people that you meet in your venue. And you might be doing similar shows and you kind of build those networks from the ground up, and in year one they're great friends because they work in the same venue as you and they're doing a similar show. Year two, they're maybe bringing a show back, or they've gone on to do a great tour of the UK, and so they've got a little bit more skill on that side, and you're maybe coming up with a different set of skills that you've built. So you're meeting up in year two and you're sharing these skills that you've built in the past year, and then year three, this person that you've met in year one might have gone on to start programming a venue or has become a really great producer. And so those networks that you build and build year on year on year, it's a long game, but it's a really, really great network to have of the fellow artists and peers that you meet in your venue and at Fringe Central.
Yeah, there really is no need to do it on your own.
No, absolutely not. And some of the Fringe Central events we have going solo together, which is a networking and support event for solo performers. There's some really great mental health support events. We have the Sanctuary, which is happening 5 times over the Fringe, and that's just a quiet place away from the fray of the festival. There's just kind of quiet music and an essential oil diffuser and dim lighting and head and shoulder massages that are free, provided by Equity. So it's a really nice little escape, an oasis of calm.
What's a good festival for you? What do you go home and go, oh, I did a good job?
We just had the Fringe Central welcome address, and Deborah Francis White just said this wonderful thing about what makes a good festival for her is less about work and more about play. If you're working at it and if you're pushing yourself and if you're having a really, really hard time because all you're focusing on is getting people in to see your show, getting them to enjoy your show and getting, onward opportunities for progression, and you're not enjoying it yourself, what's the point in being here? It's a festival. It's supposed to be a party. It's supposed to be fun. Get out of the head zone of making it really, really hard work and hang out with friends and, get out of the city and escape from the Fringe sometimes and just, enjoy it, play with it, and don't constantly work at it.
Hashtag into the unknown?
Exactly, hashtag into the unknown. And yeah, escaping into shows that you wouldn't see, escaping into places that you wouldn't usually go to, because that's what Edinburgh is all about, is, into the unknown, down that little alleyway that you would never have gone, and into a free show that you got flyered for at 1:30 in the morning.
That's the best thing, when you find like a venue just by accident and find an act that you think is wonderful. And then you watch them.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
You can find customers for life in that sort of situation.
Yeah, I think so. And it's building those audiences from scratch. And I think Alan will talk a lot about it in a while, about marketing and getting bums and seats. But bumping into people in a queue that you would never have spoken to, and you find out that they're programming a venue in London, and having those conversations that you never would have started, but you do because you're in Edinburgh and you're at the Fringe, and it's things just happen, and it's Fringe, and it's fun, and
it's so good to talk to people who are clearly so passionate about.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And you know, as I said, we work year round, and it's really great that we get to support people all year round. But this is like Christmas morning for us. You know, having people coming into me, telling me about their shows and asking for advice for what to do beyond the Fringe. How do I build a tour? How do I talk to people with the blue lanyards? Because they're the ones that I need to talk to, and they're scaring me. You know, getting that kind of one-to-one just FaceTime with artists that are coming here and are so excited or so scared, and they just need a little bit of extra push and a little bit of build up.
Thank you so much for talking
Thank
to
you.
us.
It's been really lovely.
Thank you.
Okay.
We pretend like we're talking, we're just having a great time, or we're just having that's exactly like that. We're having a real jolly time. Then I just turn to the camera and say, "Oh, hi! We were just having a chat. Welcome back to FFS." That was Cathy Conneff telling you all about the Participant Centre and the services that they offer, particularly with regard to the arts industry. You can get meetings with them. They're still there. They're here for the whole of the festival. If you're registered as a Fringe show, you can go and book a meeting and talk to them. And get their expert advice. Advice here now turns to coping with this crazy month of madness. How do you go about preparing for the festival? Like before you're coming here, when do you start sort of writing your show? When do you have it sort of set and like that's the Edinburgh show?
That was about a week after I arrived. Well, I don't know. The seed ideas are in like January, because you've got to write a blurb if you want to get in the brochure before the early bird entry, so it costs a bit less money. And then I just try to do lots of new material gigs and splurge things out until it starts to make some semblance of sense. Then you build up 40 to 50 minutes and try it in all different orders, scratch stuff out and hate it all, and then one day it'll go boom and it makes sense and it's a show.
I love going through the brochure at the very start of the festival. You can go through, it's pretty much specifically for comedians. You can go through and look at all of the entries and play the game of, now have they named that because that's something to do with the show, or is that just a random name they've picked and they'll like try and fit something to it later on to hang it on.
Yeah, I think Acaster really had the best pattern of just picking like tractor.
Yeah.
And then the blurb would have nothing to do with tractors, the show would have nothing to do with tractors, but that's fine, you haven't painted yourself into a corner. Yeah.
You go see it and say, well, when's he going to mention the tractor?
Yeah.
Like, when will it be?
And then he never does, and you're like, what an artist.
I'll see it on Netflix.
Yeah.
He'll probably have worked it in by then. What's your show called this year?
Toxic.
Yeah. Cheating. Cathy, very different preparation, of course, for theatre, because presumably the show is already written and doesn't really.
A talented writer instead of me, yes. So I only really got involved in, I think, the end of June, and then we just started rehearsals in July, rehearsed for 4 weeks, and then came here.
And you've come to it, and there's a script written, and
there was
it's
a script
all
written.
set.
I mean, the script has had lots of iterations.
Right.
In that 4 weeks, it's been cut and then added to, and then we've done previews, and people go, I don't understand this bit, and we're going, okay, but it's Dan who's written and directed it, who's had to deal with all that, thankfully. Yes.
Yeah, my company, we do sort of devise pieces, and I think we always head towards Edinburgh. We probably start in January, February with like, this is what the show is, and then it develops a bit, and then you get just towards that just the tail end of it, where you suddenly do a preview and find that actually it's an hour and 15 minutes when an audience are in, and then you have to take 20 minutes out of it and go, sort of the iteration tends to go backwards, going, we're far too long,
yes.
We're going to get fined for running over, and the people after us will hate us.
Well, the first time we ran this, it was an hour and 20, and it kept running at an hour and 15. But strange, on the first preview, without cutting anything, it went down to 59 minutes. Right. But we just cut stuff for safety, because I think we're just talking really fast because we weren't scared. Yeah. So, yeah. But the previous show I did, first read through was an hour and 45. We had a 55-minute slot, so that was interesting. It's
amazing how much a theatre show can change, like when you get an audience. I don't know if it's the same with comedy, like the length of the show. Last year we had a show here that we got it pretty drilled to like an hour, and it was an hour slot, so that was right. But just before the Fringe, it was kind of running an hour and 10. And one day we ran 43 minutes, I think, just because I think the audience reacted in a different way, and the cast sort of drove at it much harder. Are you quite drilled in the length of your show? Do you have warnings? Do you have like people waving at you and?
No, I just have my own watch,
right.
And I try to keep 54 minutes because I know that if I've had too much fun at the top and I've stepped out and talked to them loads, then that's great. It gets everyone really into it. But I just notice after 54, they start to go
right
in the seats, and then the end of this show has a sort of like. The last 5 minutes is a build-up of serious, and then what? But so for that serious, sort of 4 to 5 minutes, that's ideal if that starts at the 50-minute mark rather than the 55. Because if it's at the 55, then they're sort of like, oh, I really want to care, but I'd really like to scratch my bum right now. I do not want to do that in public.
How do you find the audiences? Do you obsess about like the specific people in the audience and thinking he's not having a good time, or she's enjoying it, I'll play more to her?
Yeah, definitely. If there's like the other night, there was a couple dead center in the front, and the room that I've got, the acoustics are a bit weird. So sometimes if it's fairly full, then it might feel like one side of the room is actually not enjoying it, or it might feel like I can't hear anything coming from the back. But I think that's because the sound just gets absorbed. So I'll just hone in on, for instance, this couple in the front row who were just going wild.
Right.
Because then you can sort of think like, well, we'll keep you as the sort of tide mark for today. Also try and find a way of like transferring some of you to like that moody one over there.
And if you have a bad audience, or if you have an audience that you feel, if you come off and go, oh, that went horribly.
Yeah.
How do you lift yourself back up for the next day? When I find out, I'll tell you.
Well, I had one last year, which was just, like the hardest I've ever died on my arse ever. And the main problem was because it was a very small audience of only about 11 people. 8 of them were sort of industry. 1 of them was an awards judge.
Nice.
And I just ate shit for an hour and absolutely hated it. And like, you know, so many of the little sketches that required energy, I was using very aggressive energy to the point where I was like hurting myself. And afterwards, I think I had a cry. I think I went home, and I think I probably stayed up until about 4 in the morning. But I watched like maybe an episode of Mad Men, an episode of Drag Race, anything that could just like be something else.
Yeah.
And sort of like involve myself in someone else's world to distract until eventually I slept, got up and had a massive breakfast, and just like treat yourself.
I mean, treating yourself, it's very, very important. Cathy, with theatre it's tricky, and your show, it's not a comedy.
It's quite a difficult thing to explain stroke sell, because it has comedic moments in it,
right?
Which become less and less comedic as you go through it. It's interesting doing this particular show, just because. The big difference is because apart from the beginning where we have the house lights on, we can't see the audience, so we have no idea what they're doing. Occasionally they make a noise, so we know that they're alive, but that's it. We did have an interesting person sitting on the front row doing yoga, which we ended up directing most of the show, so we couldn't see him literally doing yoga on the front row. But it's interesting because it's quite it is quite a tricky show in that it's quite dark, and it touches, just by virtue of having to act in it, touches on a lot of things that are happening in your own life. So it's hard sometimes to come out the show and be like, yay! Yeah,
it's difficult to get that feedback when it's like a more serious show,
yes.
And there is no audience feedback apart from the clapping at the end.
Yes.
And then you're like, right, in that 30 seconds, how much can I learn from that audience? Like, did they enjoy it? I don't know. How much were they clapping?
Yes.
Were they standing? How many people were in tears? I tech our show, and I judge it by, like, as people come out, I'm looking to see, right, how many people are crying. How many hearts did we break today?
I mean, I think I cried enough for about 7 people when I came. So
that's lovely to hear. I'm glad we like really upset people.
Thank you. I was genuinely upset.
But it's sort of weird because our show's a sort of mix between comedy and there's quite a lot of jokes in it, and sometimes I think people don't quite know how to go with it, so it's quite hard to judge, which probably makes it easier to cope with because everybody comes out with a slightly different feeling. So it's kind of like looking for a review and saying it's just an opinion. Lots of different feelings.
Yes.
It's interesting you say like watching Netflix and just like taking yourself away from the festival. Do you do a lot of that as well?
Probably not as much as I should. The only thing I've been watching since I've been here is The Handmaid's Tale, which has really cheered me up in between shows. Yeah.
So just escaping from all of that depression with some...
Really like comedy.
Yeah. I think try Drag Race. I think Drag Race might work.
Yes, absolutely.
That may work better.
I mean, I think the majority of all the shows I've been to see have been not series shows, with the odd exception. That's my getaway from that.
Right. Do you look after yourself when you're here? Do you? Yeah. You try. Is there anything that you do that sort of makes you feel I'm looking after myself because I'm getting 5 a day or I'm doing X or Y?
I try and do a run 3 times a week.
Okay.
Good.
And I like it when it's raining because it feels slightly naughty, and that my mother, where she's still with us, would go, "What are you doing? You'll get pneumonia or piles," because everything, according to my mother, gave you piles.
Yes, sitting on a cold floor.
Eating a cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything.
Well, my mother's solution to everything, like every time you were ill, it's like drink more water. Like my limbs ache, drink more water. You know, lost my voice, drink more water. It was all water.
I mean, water is good advice.
It is. It's important to stay hydrated.
I think that probably is the best thing you can do to look after yourself at the Fringe, because your voice just goes ragged within about 3 days. So in fact, one thing that I've been looking to invest in is a good, and now this is a coffee cup, but I'm pointing to it because it's environmentally sound, is a good water bottle to carry around, not just for environmental reasons, but to remind me to drink water.
Yeah.
So if I had a litre canister with me, I would take this week.
See, I had a metal one I got in Germany, which is really good, but it's very heavy. So found isn't just in a local version of a supermarket. It's just a small plastic bottle. It holds like half a litre, but it's really super light. So it's very good.
Very good.
Brightly coloured, so you can't forget about it.
It's good to hit that, I think, because it's easy to forget, isn't it? There's so much going on.
Yeah.
And, like you're walking from place to place, and then I often get to the evening and think, I don't think I've drunk anything today. I think no wonder I'm dry.
I did want to order a Love Island one with my own name on it, but then I saw that the Tories had been handing out Love Island sort of parody bottles which said "Don't get mugged off by Corbyn" on the side.
Right.
So I feel they've missed the zeitgeist of Love Island slightly.
Yeah, it's like they've got one 22-year-old intern and they're like, well, come on, what do you like?
It's not like
okay.
It's not like politicians to miss the zeitgeist, is it?
No.
They're always slightly behind the curve on that. I'm expecting they'll probably get into Drag Race sooner or later.
Oh please, Lord, no.
and ruin it for everybody. That's why the zeitgeist moves on so constantly, because it gets ruined.
Yes.
It gets spoilt. So your favourite place in Edinburgh to go? Meadows?
Probably
I think?
Meadows.
I like the Meadows because you can have a cry there, and you can either blame it usually on the rain or the hay fever. I find you can get away with either.
I found a new one this year as well, dry eye. I've got something called dry eye, which makes you cry. Yeah.
That's a silly name for it, really.
It is.
That's wet eye, surely.
But I don't know how this works, but that's what they called it. They had to put ink in my eye to find this out. Don't know why they had to do that. They didn't probably, they just thought it was funny.
Was it that cool ink that makes your pupils like go crazy big?
No, it made my pupils go crazy yellow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Favourite place in Edinburgh?
Well, I've been that smug guy who's joined a gym.
Okay.
And so I actually really like that because it's a nice bit of the
Just
day.
joined it, or are you using it?
Yeah. I've probably been about 10 times.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to go after this.
Nice. Where is it?
It's actually on Pleasance Hill. It's in amongst the Pleasance courtyard because they do a Fringe performers and staff membership that's only £28, one payment. It's a huge. It's got all these different halls with all different types of things that you can, pick up and throw.
£28 for the month.
For the month.
£28 for the month. That's £1 a day.
Yeah. And so, if anything, my favourite place is the sauna in one of the changing rooms.
And there's a sauna as well.
Yeah.
There
Good
we go.
for making friends.
Well, that's an incredibly practical tip. Are you looking forwards to the rest of the run? You excited still?
Yeah,
You're finding it dragging?
No, I'm not. I'm kind of going, like September something. What am I doing with my life? I don't know.
Quite. Yeah, I had a day off yesterday and I missed it. I was like, I want it to come back again. I want to do the show again.
Wonderful.
So,
re-energized.
Yeah.
So going into the second half, fighting for it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for coming in. Have a wonderful rest of the festival.
thank you.
And you too have a wonderful rest of the festival. Have a good day. Stay hydrated. I'm being told to look into both cameras simultaneously, so this could be an interesting.
Split your eyes.
Go out there, have a wonderful festival, stay hydrated, and come back again tomorrow. Cheers. So in the second half, we're going to talk a lot about free speech and what you can and can't get away with saying.
As long as you're not inciting hate.
Apparently, my fondness for bestiality is being crushed by the man being censored.
I'm not censoring.
You're deplatforming me. You're deplatforming me.
Whatever, what you do in your own time.
I go
is
to
fine.
bogs.
It's fine by me. Just don't bring your
Actually, yeah.
preferences.
I've got a video actually yesterday from the bog of all of those sheep in the field, so we could start with that and just see where we go.